Boom 0. r/AskReddit. To the deaf who gained the ability to hear, what sound surprised you the most? I waited way too long to get hearing aids. First time I flushed the toilet, it was so loud I panicked and ran out of the bathroom. I feel bad for laughing, but I can't stop thinking about how this must have looked. To be fair, I've been hearing all my life and there are some toilets that have the most aggressive, loud flushes. I get this. Toilets on airplanes always scare the poo-poo out of me no matter how many times I use them. Edit. Yes, it is a good place to have the poo-poo scared out of me. The first time I heard crickets chirping, I was like, wow, what? Wait till you hear cicadas, and peacocks, and pigs. I have bilateral cochlear implants. The most surprising sound to me had to be the world music, birds. Or maybe that's just the drones beeping. Oh, ha ha ha. Those are just birds. Just birds. They are just birds. You don't need to listen to them so intently to hear any sort of transmitted calls they make. The birds work for the bourgeoisie. I was so confused the first time I heard the rain pattering on the roof, or the sound of carpet when you move your foot. Oh, and loved hearing twee birds singing outside. New Zealand are located. Good luck finding me on the world maps though. Not deaf myself, but I remember reading about some deaf guy who never knew farting made a sound. No one had told the poor fricker and he'd made it to his 20s farting like a champ with zero shame. Probably made up but still gave me a giggle. Not deaf myself, but I read someone who expected the sun to make a sound. Were it not for the vacuum of space and its inability to transmit sound, the sun would be as loud as a train horn about 1 meter from your ear. Be grateful for space, otherwise we wouldn't hear anything other than the sun. The OG drama queen. I remember a relevant comment by username Firefly212. My old roommate in NYC got implants at, I think he was 25 or 26. He was shocked that the radiators in the house didn't make noise. He could feel them, and was absolutely sure, given their shaking and vibrating from time to time, that they were going to be quite noisy. On the flip side, he was deeply annoyed by the buzz of fluorescent lighting, which he did not expect to make noise. My radiators are noisy as frick, so he's not wrong. A lot of people have noisy radiators, especially in old buildings. They can cause sounds from hissing, banging, chirping, etc. Interesting question. I had hearing aids since age 1 until I couldn't hear anymore by 28 after a head injury. I spent the next 5 years just resting my ears in silence and getting used to it. Then I got a cochlear implant at 33. The first thing I heard was my autistic nephew's voice, realizing how kids actually sound, and not just how I thought they sounded from a lip-reading perspective. The sound that surprised me the most was laughter. You can see someone laughing while lip-reading, but you cannot really begin to guess what their laugh sounds like. I forgot how unique people's laughs are and how laughter is also sort of a hearing culture aspect verbally. You aren't just seeing a smile, you are hearing a smile from across the room. All the times I couldn't hear and saw someone smiling, I realized they could have been laughing as well. I just couldn't hear it or recognize it as a communication tool of expression. All of them. The way the wind blows against the grass, the way the leaves rustle, and the sounds of pretty birds and their wings follow with them. The way the water falls on the rocks, the faucet, the shower, the way the rain hits the roof of your car, or how the thunder rumbles your feet, the melancholy footsteps of people passing by, or the quiet sniffles of a laughing child, the nostalgic motorcycle on a summer evening, the way the delicious food sizzles on the stove, any and all sounds, the sounds we take for granted the most. That's beautiful. I was severely hearing impaired and got my first set of hearing aids in 2nd grade. The doctor's office was located in a football stadium, so the hallway was one long continuous oval shape. The doc told me to step out into the hall and see what new sounds I might hear. I stepped out and looked down the hall both ways and I heard something. A clickety-clackety-click-clack echoing unbelievably off the walls. I couldn't see anything until the person came around the curve. High heels. The most surprising sound though, was the sound of the world. When I walked outside I physically crouched down because of how loud it was. The collective sounds of the city. It was so loud I went back to the office and told them I couldn't handle it. The world was too loud. I wanted it turned down. They told me I had to get used to it, so we left. Many years later, I got a digital set of hearing aids and they picked up on different sounds. When I got home I went out back and my dog was looking up at something barking and wouldn't stop. So I went to see what it was. I looked up and there were about 100 little black birds sitting on the wires and suddenly the sound came in. I was amazed. I looked up for so long it hurt my neck. The sound was one big one at first and then I started to hear individual tweets. I couldn't believe such little things could make such big noise, and considering how loud it seemed to be I couldn't believe I hadn't heard it before. Man, I don't know what it is about this but it has me crying. Closely related, but I work at a board game cafe and one of my regulars had a severely diminished sense of smell taste. When he was about 20 the doctors found that it wasn't because that bit of his brain was underdeveloped but because there was a tiny growth putting pressure on it. They easily removed it, and he went nuts trying every combination of coffee flavorings and tea for months afterwards. Weird stuff. Maple and caramel. Peppermint and coconut. I have no sense of smell and a diminished sense of taste, and this makes me want to find a specialist. My mom always thought it was due to a bad infection after a tonsil removal operation when I was 3, but it'd be interesting to know for sure. I hate not being able to distinguish a lot of flavors in food. A childhood friend got hearing aids at age 13 and was fascinated by all sorts of things that he found out made noise, but what totally cracked him up one day was the squeaky floorboards in his house. The idea that just walking around and having the floor squeak in random spots just had him rolling with laughter. Okay, so this is not at all the same as being deaf, but I had a load of ear problems with chronic infections for several years as a youngster, and one day I had my ears microsuctioned. Afterwards, I walked out of the room and I realized I could suddenly hear all this amazing background noise. People walking in the corridor, the fan turning on the ceiling, the receptionist shuffling paper. It was incredible. The sound of silence. No, I'm kidding. But I did have a friend who regained his hearing and he said that the weirdest sounds always came from birds. He said for a while it was difficult to drown them out as he went about his days. When I first got my hearing aids in high school, I didn't know the fire alarm in the girls' bathroom made these wee little betties just to let you know it still worked. I was also so quiet my first day actually being able to hear. All my friends cornered me after school ended to make sure I was okay. Needless to say, they were also excited that I could hear too. Oh, I have a great story. Friend's sister was very hard of hearing, nearly deaf. She got cochlear implants. At work I was asked to help her pair her implants with her new phone, because they are freaking Bluetooth. While I am doing this she is happily telling me how sensitive they are. I can hear paper. She had no idea paper sliding on paper made a noise. She then told me she could hear her hand sliding on the wall, and how cats annoyed her because sometimes they made a sound, but sometimes they just made the action but no sound. But then out of the blue she says what's weird is, boobs don't make noise. You really think they would? I lost it. I cracked up. I'm mostly deaf without my prosthetics on, and what always surprises me is just how freaking loud everyone and everything is. Come out to the country. It's amazing how peaceful it still is in 2019. My wife is from the country and I do love spending time outside of cities. The sounds of nature are much more peaceful and the air tastes much better, unless cows live nearby. But even little things, especially mechanical, they are just so loud, like the sound of a computer fan or toilet being flushed are just ridiculously jarring. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. See you in the next video.